This time on One Foot Flipper, I pick up some free inventory, we hang out a bit, and we look at a lot of sales. Stay tuned.
One Foot Flipper.
Hey, how's it going with everybody here? Paige here, the One Foot Flipper. I'm in my basement here, and this has just sort of been a weekend of fail for me. Not so much an eBay weekend to fail. My sales have been fine this weekend. Sold 300 on Friday, 236 on Saturday. It's too early on Sunday to count yet, but not bad at all. No problems there. But what's failing is everything else. I spent most of the day ripping my basement apart, looking for an old prosthetic leg part, because the part that my stump goes into, it doesn't fit right anymore, and I wanted to find my old one and try to put my old one on there and see if that worked better, but I hadn't seen it in a long time. Ended up spending 4 hours looking for that, and in the process I ended up working on some other stuff that ended up all failure. Like, I had a monitor I needed to test because the third monitor went out on my system, my TV system, my computer upstairs, so I thought, oh, I'll bring it down and test it downstairs to see if it's the monitor or the port on the video card. But I bring it down here, and it turns out I don't have any computers down here with that port on the video card. So that was a waste of the time, and somehow in the middle of all this, I was like thinking, you know, I'm pretty sure that I had a spreadsheet that told me where that leg part was, and it was on the computer that was inside the arcade cabinet, because the arcade cabinet and my listing station have the exact same model computer, so if I have a failure, I can switch the computers instantly and be right back to business. But no, it wasn't on there. But I spent some more time with that apart, troubleshooting that, and in the middle of all that, I managed to bump the cabinet and have a 15 or so pound vintage metal cooler fall off the top of the cabinet and hit me in the head. That was awesome. I can still kind of feel it right now, and it was yesterday. But on the plus side, I did get the arcade game almost working. Apparently the encoder board, which is the thing that all the controls hooked up to, is defective, which is very possible. It is over 20 years old at this point. I've never encountered that model failing before, but it's 20 plus years old, so that's reasonable to assume that that's defective. So I just need to get another one of those, and then this thing will be working again. And I also took out something that I was bumping into every day. See this open pipe right here at the end? That had a nice, well, not nice, but that had a rough wooden white pole box built around it, but it made it stick out just far enough that I bashed the thing with my wheelchair every single time I came by. Finally, I got tired of it. I tore that down. I'll get some matching paint eventually and paint up those exposed surfaces. Plus, it's my house, so it doesn't have to look perfect because I'm the one who lives here. You know, nobody else has to look at that. So now I can wheel in and out of that area just perfectly. Unfortunately, in all the looking for my leg, my wife ended up pulling a bunch of stuff out of areas and then not putting it back up. So I'm going to need a little help from her to get some of this stuff back put up to have my area back to normal. So yeah, pretty much all fail all the way. And I was going to work on my truck with my stepdad today, but I wore myself out and messed up this basement so much yesterday that I figured I wasn't going to have time. So I had to cancel on that. So have to put that off to another time. All right, if I wasted enough of your time with all my personal stuff, okay, well, let's get to something else then. Maybe you'll like that better. So I'm on my way to get one of those Asteroids 1-Up arcade games, those little mini arcades they were selling a few years ago. One of the people at my old employers reached out and offered it to me. We took it as a trade-in on something, and at the time I thought, oh, let's just put this out in the game room, you know, maybe people will play it when they're hanging around or waiting, and nobody ever played the thing, ever. I guess Asteroids is just too old for the crowd that was coming in there, you know. I love Asteroids, but even I'm a little bit too young for Asteroids. I'm 46, you know. I was 2 years old when Asteroids came out. Although I've owned several real machines in the past. I sold my last one over the last summer, so I guess I'm going to pick up this free 1-Up machine. I may try to flip it without ever taking it out of the back of the Jeep. That might be the best way to do it, because I don't really want to haul the thing in the house. And I mean, I wouldn't mind keeping it, but where am I going to put it? You've seen my basement room there. There's not a lot of extra space hanging around there that can just be wasted on things like a kitty asteroid machine that I'll play twice a month. And my daughter doesn't like video games enough, nor does she have enough room in her room to even have it. Now, today I got about 9 eBay messages in a row from the same person, all relating to a bunch of metal Games Workshop Blood Bowl miniatures that I had up for sale. Blood Bowl is a fantasy football game, not as in the type where you have a draft, but the type is in orcs and goblins and elves are playing football. It was made by Games Workshop. I think it's still around right now, but these are very old ones from the late 80s, early 90s, and they're complaining about my prices and how I didn't know what a few of the figures were and everything else. And of course, they're also in Europe. In Europe, vintage Warhammer and Games Workshop stuff is much more common and much less valuable. And you know, he said my prices were crazy and everything else, and I thanked him for some of his some of the items that he identified for me that I didn't have identified. Like there were things like star players, you know, quarterbacks and whatever, and I didn't even know who they were, so I just put, I don't even know who this guy is. And he said my prices, though, he said, were completely out of whack of reality. And I said, well, you know, the prices are different in America and the UK. A lot of times there's just no comps for the stuff in America. So I'm going to price based on, you know, my closest thing, because not everybody wants to order from another country. And, you know, he still complained about it in a response, but he did give me some more information, which was useful. And then when I go to look, I currently apparently almost own the painted Blood Bowl complete team metal vintage market in America. So how are my prices too high when I pretty much own the market? I don't have any real competition. I think I only saw one other one up for sale, and that was a human team. I don't think I have a human team. But either way, if they don't sell at my prices, guess what? The prices will just lower over time until they sell. I consider things like painted miniatures to be unique items. They are not the same item as the miniature unpainted. As long as it's a quality paint job, it's not the same item as far as I'm concerned. It may sell for a significant premium because of that paint job, or it could equally sit for a long time until it goes down below the unpainted version of that because nobody wanted it painted and they're just going to strip it down. But whenever I have a nicely painted miniature or a group or an army or a team or whatever, I am going to price them up at first because it is a unique item. I don't know if it'll come out before or after this, but I did kind of a Debbie Downer negative video. Not really negative, but just saying that the selling environment we're in right now, it is not great. It's causing me to just think I'm gonna right now pour some more time into YouTube and concentrate a little less time on eBay right now when eBay is not being all that successful right now. And I don't need to make a certain amount of money anyway, so I'd rather put my time in where it can be more fruitful. Now, as far as a per hour, you know, dollar per hour, eBay time will be more money to you than YouTube time unless you've got 30,000 subs plus. The eBay time's going to make more money. But I don't need any particular amount of money, and I wouldn't mind getting to 30,000 subs myself. I'm knocking on the door of 6,000 right now. Might be there by the time I post this video, but not there as of the time I'm recording this. Got to stop at the auto parts store. Going to get some rear brake pads and one headlight. I had a headlight go out 3 weeks ago. I did the cheap thing and only bought one, and what do you know it, a few weeks later another one goes out. I love here they've got the handicap parking that is much further away from the door than the other parking spots. A lot of places do that. They specifically build up a curb and then they build a ramp much further away from the doors so they can both follow the letter of the law without actually wasting their good parking spaces. Hey, let's do a couple sales. The Alan Parsons Project, Tales of Mystery and Imagination, $5.07. Sold this cool Warhammer tank. It's a Forge World tank. That means that like this big turret was third party. It didn't come directly from the Warhammer people, and this sold for $157.13. I sold this piece of model train scenery here. This is a cable car, rigid duo. This does not work correctly. It needs some work or some repair. Sold for $70. And I sold a cassette tape of Fleetwood Mac, Bare Trees, $2.35. Did include a bonus U2 CD on the back that was a single that was in the wrong case. Oh, hey everybody. I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Max. You probably know him as Fast Talking Flipper. He is like this close to being monetized. So if you haven't watched him before, why don't you look at the link down in my description. Go check him out, subscribe, watch a few videos. You know, help him get there. Do it for me. And if for some reason you're not subscribed to me, hey, you could do that as well. Make two people happy today. Thanks. All right, got the auto parts. Where was I? Yeah, I think I'm going to slow down my eBay hours for a little while they're not paying out as well. And I always put it, you know, I always speed back up when the time is putting in better, which I think is going to happen next year. You know, fourth quarter is going to be what it's going to be. And for the most part, that, you know, those items I'm going to sell fourth quarter are all already acquired and they're put in or they're almost listed. They'll all be listed soon. So how are all your sales going? Anybody up? Anybody up year over year? Just wondering. Hey, let's go over a few sales here. Sold Jackson Brown for $3.53. Kind of glad I'm not listing any records at the moment. Sold this Warhammer Classic Rhino, $25.19. 3% promoted listings, so Papa eBay still getting his money. Another cheap record, Orleans Wake and Dreaming, $5.19. I sold some train track. I sold 7 pieces of 1 foot track at roughly $1 a piece to 2 different buyers. Sold a Warhammer sprue, $9, Craftword Eldar Guardians, which is kind of good because they're cheaper than that assembled. Sold an old Canon AE SLR camera. I'll throw a photo of it up there. Sold for $132.93. I sold could call this a trivet, maybe it's a coaster, maybe it's a bathroom tile, but it has Bandersnatch Commodore 64 on it, $3.99. I think I found this in the Goodwill bin, so I paid whatever by weight for it. I knew somebody would buy it eventually. Not like it takes any time to list your store or something like that. Sold a Flames of War vehicle, still in the bubble pack, $38.79. It's one of the leaders, so they're more expensive. Sold a set of 4 old school Warhammer dice, $24.99. Apparently they do not make those dice anymore. Andy Gibb will go shadow dancing with you for $4.71. I sold this Blood Bowl Chaos Dwarfs team, all metal, all painted. Sold that. That sold in one day for $119.99. I might have underpriced that, or there might have only been one possible buyer. You never know with things like that. I sold 3 Cheerful Snowman name ornaments. My wife's still got to put the names on them. The ornaments for sales are finally starting. If you want to support me, the store, or my family, go to my store and look in the ornament section. That's what I've really got quantity of, and I'd love to send them out to your house and let them be a part of your family. Finally, I sold this Sony alarm clock CD player, $10.66 plus shipping. Not worth it. Let's talk about storage units for a minute. A lot of resellers are killing themselves paying for storage units. I think a storage unit should be a very temporary solution to a problem that can make you a fortune or a lot of money. If you get a storage unit, it should be because you got the buy of a lifetime and you don't have enough space to store it right now. And once you get that unit, you should be looking to get out of it as fast as possible. I've never had a storage unit, although once I did pay Meta Bubbles to come help me on a really big pickup, and part of his payment includes storing the overflow at his house for a few months because the buy was just too good to pass up, but I didn't have the storage space for it. But what you definitely don't want to do, unless this is your only storage space, some people have no space to work out of whatsoever and they work 100% out of a storage space. That's fine. In that case, you're paying for your primary business location. But you don't need a storage unit full of death pile in addition to the death pile you've already got at home. All you're doing is every single month you're upping your cost of goods on the stuff in that storage unit. Every single month. Meanwhile, the items in that storage unit could actually start getting stale, losing value. You know, things might be good and hot when you get them, but that same item that was the great pick when you got it, in the storage unit might not be so good 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 6 years later. You know, especially you don't want to fill a storage unit up with easy to acquire, low dollar items. I've heard of people who have multiple storage units full of media. Most media is continually seeking zero in price. Even if you filled a storage unit up with good media, if you let it sit for 2 years, I'm going to bet half of that media will no longer be good because enough of it will have finally entered the marketplace that the charity media sellers will have brought its value down to zero shipped. And meanwhile, you paid to store that the whole time. I just don't have a lot of storage unit stories that have a happy ending. They usually have a bad ending. I know some of my friends, they had to move from a bigger place to a smaller place. They ended up storing a house full of furniture and personal items for 9 years. When they finally recovered all of it, it all went in the dumpster. It was no longer part of their lives. Some of it had gotten damaged in storage from water damage and, you know, humidity. It was just money completely thrown away. I've had multiple friends who were in the arcade game hobby, and they'd have storage units full of arcade games. What for? Because their home arcades were already 100% full. They usually have a shed in the backyard, 100% full of broken games in addition to those working ones that they've got. So what do you need the storage unit for? Sure, maybe you found a great deal and deal of a lifetime. You filled that storage unit up for the deal of a lifetime. Then you started paying those storage fees. And every day, every month, that deal of a lifetime becomes less of a deal of a lifetime and more like a normal deal. Then it starts to turn into a bad deal. So, if there's one thing you can do to increase the profitability of your business is don't get a storage unit at all unless you absolutely need it to work out of yourself. That's your main work area. Otherwise, if you can store enough to function as a business at home, then there is no reason for you to have that storage unit. If you have to get one for a temporary deal of a lifetime, do it. But then your number one goal should be to get out of that unit as quickly as possible. No matter what the cost, because that deal of a lifetime might not be the deal of a lifetime after you paid storage on it for 2 years. Or 3. Or 4. Or, you know, what if you got 5 deals of a lifetime, you got a storage unit for each one of them. Next thing you know, you're in $1,000 a unit for storage. For some reason, you're still outsourcing. That's another thing. If you have a storage unit, if you're currently renting a storage unit that has stuff in it, you're done sourcing. You don't need to source one bit. You need to be going by that storage unit every few days, filling up your vehicle and listing those things and not sourcing another thing. It makes no sense to be paying to store items that you're not listing while you're simultaneously looking for more items to list. Hey, I'm almost here to get the asteroids machine. Wonder if any of my real friends are here. I mean, of course, some of my real friends are here. I used to work here, but, you know, I wonder if anybody I actually hang out with is here. I guess we shall find out. Hey, let's get a few more sales going. Sold this Bachmann Big Haulers Liberty Bell Limited gigantic train set. The box is all beat up, but it actually is new old stock. It doesn't look like it's ever actually been set up before. I had this at 150 and I decided I wanted it out, and I dropped it to 100 and I immediately started getting a bunch of questions about it. I'm actually kind of glad I did, because I've sold these new old stock train sets before and the smoke hasn't worked on some of them. And so this time it gave me the opportunity. When they asked about the functionality, I say, hey, it's new, it's never been used, but sometimes the smoke doesn't work on the old ones, so no warranty on the smoke there, but otherwise this is brand new. So that's cool. So hopefully I won't get a smoke return there. Sold a gourd, $8.09 or so. Gonna move the rest of this over to another location. Alright, I picked up the one-up asteroids machine. You can see it back there. That was all of free. Not sure what I'm gonna do with it because I don't have permanent storage room for it, but I wasn't gonna pass up free, particularly when I had a chance to go out to the old store, and was hoping there'd be some of my friends here to play cards with, but there was nobody here playing yet, just some people shopping. Nobody I knew personally was here, so just took the free game. Now I guess I'm gonna head home. Probably just make some more videos once I get home, because I just don't feel like listening right now. You ever get in that mood where you don't feel like listening? That's how I'm feeling, because I'm just down to the worst of the worst stuff left. I think I got a few more things in miniatures, a couple of tubs of dolls, and then I'll actually have to go looking for some more stuff. Although instead of looking for stuff, I might consolidate some more, make a little more room, see if I can get start to get my packing areas downstairs. That'd be really nice if I can get the packing area downstairs. Then both my wife and daughter would stop messing it up, because they tend to come in and just set things on my packing shelves, because, you know, they're right inside the front door and it's easy, so it's easy to just put stuff there, and it builds up over time until I'm like, hey, get this out of here. I was hoping buddy MILF Hunter would be here, but he was at the game store, because he had me order him a card. He doesn't like to, he's one of those people who doesn't want to put his credit card online or anything. So if he needs a card and they don't have it in the store, I usually just order it for him and let him buy it from me once it gets here. And I had one for him, but he just wasn't there, so I have to see him another time. Now I'll be driving right past the White Castle soon. The horrible fat part of me wants to order 10 of them. The part of me wants to be good, wants to drive right past the place. Not sure where it's going to go yet. Hey, there's an expired plate in front of me, February of this year. Not bad, only 8 months off. Really nice car though. Not that I can talk. I drove my van around on expired plates for 3 months until I found a replacement, because I wasn't going to jump through the hoops to redo it, to get it relicensed, because it needed too much work, and I wasn't just going to take the first deal that came. So I was okay with having to pay the fine had I been pulled over for that, but luckily I never was. And all of this is allegedly at this point, because this is a video production. This may or may not be reality. This might be the script, you know. The Bobs might be in the back feeding me the lines. You don't know what's going on here. Is any of this real? Am I a real reseller? How many legs do I really have? Do you know? How many of you have seen me in person? Depending on, I'm going to say probably 10 of you have. So you all will have the answer to that question. How many legs do I really have? Do the number of legs match up to the number of feet? How many nipples does Kevin the Commonwealth Picker have? The general wisdom is take as many as you think he'd have and add 3 more. That's what I've heard. Oh, I promised myself I'd try not to mention Kevin anymore. He does not seem to like that. because you know what happens is you watch things like Trash to Cash podcast, you start to feel like these kind of guys are your buddies and that you can also make fun of them in your videos, but in reality you don't know them. You know, they're not your real friends, and it may not be appropriate to make fun of them in videos. I've exchanged messages with all of them in real life, particularly with Carry American Arbitrage, but I've never talked to any of them on the phone. The only YouTuber I've talked to on the phone is Biscuit Bot. I forgot why I called him or he called me, but we ended up being on the phone until 1 in the morning one night. Decent call. So also, I think he's got his own podcast, but I know we had enough chemistry where he could possibly be a candidate for the three-legged reselling podcast, or five-legged, or whatever we decide to go with. Not sure yet. Also not sure if I'm even going to do it, because the podcasts do not get the views that real videos get. So I might, if I do it, I might consider it not being a separate channel whatsoever and just being on my main channel. And maybe, here's the trick, not calling it a podcast. Oh, you just still have an episode every week, but don't call it a podcast. Just give it a title and say special guest, Biscuit Podger. That could help views, because I think the word podcast actually, while it turns on about 3.5% of viewers, I think about 85% of viewers it turns off. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments. Do y'all even like these kind of videos where I'm driving around and just blatantly wasting my spare time, looking like I'm looking at the camera, but I'm really looking at the road, talking to you about whatever crosses my mind? I mean, this video doesn't have a subject as far as I can tell, other than talking about storage units, and that only came up because I was driving right past the storage unit place, where I do not have a storage unit because I don't own one. Okay, I sold a whole bunch of Magic the Gathering related stuff to one customer for $110, and they were smart enough to take care of combined shipping. I got 4 bricks of foil cards, all that actually came with full inventory, so he actually knows what he's getting. That was something that was not worth my time. I started these much higher, and he paid less than half each of what I originally wanted for him. He got this playmat here. Nice lady on there. You got a whole bunch of different card sleeves with different Magic characters on them. A box of limited edition Valentine's Day Dragon sleeves. And an Ultra Pro binder full of token cards in alphabetical order. And he paid a total of $110 plus shipping for all of that. Relative bargain, because a lot of those things are the kind of things that they're like, it's $8 and then it's $6 to ship, but instead, you know, he got like 15 things and paid like $15 shipping. Excellent deal for him. I'll put it up on the screen because there's nothing to look at. They're already boxed, but I sold 45 different 70s through 90s CDs in a lot for $38.10. Sold this Ikari Warriors arcade game service manual. Only sold it for $2.90 because the cover just looks awful. This probably sat in the bottom of a cabinet just in the wrong spot, where every time somebody spilled soda into the control panel or whatever, stuff got dripped all over it, so it looks awful. But hey, if you've got a machine and you don't want to pay $20 for a mint manual, but you still want to have one, put that one in there. It's probably got a little more street cred than a brand new one anyway, right? UPS alumni hat sold for $13.96. I got this $1 at my Honey Hole thrift store. Sold a lot of 4 mostly children's Game Boy Advance games, $4.64. What it is, actually, it's Dave Mirror 2, Uno, Shrek 2, and something with the label ripped off of it. Looks like something Nickelodeon. Looks like I see a Rugrat there. Yeah, not all video games are good. Sold this Warhammer Space Marine Rhino tank, $61.10. This is quite heavy. It has significant metal parts to it. If you're ever buying or looking at these tanks, the heavier they are, the more valuable they tend to be. just a little bonus hint there, because the heavier ones mean they have metal components, or I can't think of the name of the word now. It's not composite, it's not vinyl, but they've either got the metal components or they've got the heavier plastic components to them, and that means they usually came from an aftermarket upgrade kit of some sort that is almost certainly not available anymore, which really ups the value. So John weight, $6.10. Oh, by the way, got a negative feedback from a record today for being not in VG condition. Nowhere in the listing did I say it was VG condition. I gave no grade. I specifically give no grade. They also claimed it was unplayable, but I listened to the record, and there is a video in the listing of the record playing and sounding just fine. Same customer bought 4 albums for a total of $30.35. Bruce Springsteen. What's that? Don Henley, it looks like. Bruce Springsteen again, and Electric Light Orchestra. And that's all for this sales segment. Hey, thanks to all 3 of you who stuck around this long, or 1 whole week of sales and 15 minutes of driving around. As of recording this, I'm about 10 subs off 6,000, which was my long-term subscription goal. So if you're one of those few who somehow made it this long and isn't subscribed, could you just hit that subscribe button for me? And if you're driving around and you see anybody and they're not subscribed, why don't you tell them about my channel? Thanks. Hope to see you again soon.